Welcome to the Pixelists, baby!
Ooh, you feeling festive.
You know, that music just gets me going every time, man.
Oh yeah, dude. Something special about it for sure.
That's right. But yes, welcome. We're the Pixelists. I'm Will. That's my boy Blake. And together we like to get together and talk about nerdy things. In this case, the Legend of Vox Machina.
Boo-boo.
Specifically, episodes 4 through 6. We just had the next chunk drop this past Friday. And, I mean, just cutting to the chase here, I loved them. I'm really excited to hear what you think. Because, again, if you're new to us, I've seen Campaign 1. Blake hasn't. So watching this show together has been fun to kind of get, the organic reaction and the seen Campaign 1 reaction. I don't know what to call that.
Critical Role in and of itself is like really fun to watch, but definitely like it's doing the Pixelists podcast. It's been really fun just to have someone else to hash stuff out with. And if you are new, you can always check out our Twitter for info about our channel. And it's at the Pixelists. And like my buddy Will just said, we just like to talk shop really about the shows we watch, the movies we enjoy, the games we play, supposedly. And we make that joke because we have never, ever talked about a game.
Soon.
So, sure.
Trademark.
But, so you said you loved it. I guess we can just jump right in. You said you loved it?
Yeah. I'm sure we'll talk about this more, but now that we're like, full steam ahead on the Briarwood arc, I feel like they're doing a great job. They surprised me in all the right ways. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
But yeah, I've really enjoyed it so far.
Yeah. Are you gonna do your Easter egg videos, by the way?
Yeah. I just put up episode 4. So
okay. I know that's a ton of work. That's me. This is like such a shameless plug for our own channel, but just personally, I know you and I talked about it. I really enjoy those videos.
Oh, thanks, man.
Because it's just a really nice. I mean, I love Critical Role, and it gives me some really nice added context to things happening in the show that I'd otherwise would be totally oblivious to. So.
Yeah, and I'm trying not to be spoilery with it. Obviously, there's some spoilers. Like if you haven't seen Campaign 1, but you want to watch the Easter egg video, have you felt like big things have been spoiled by that?
Not really. I mean, there's some things you've said that I've been like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Or what that refers to. So as long as I don't like go deep diving, you know, what does he mean by this? Oh no. But excuse me. No, it's really cool. Like in the very first video, for example, you talked about like when Vax does I'm such an amateur, man. I know this is like such a
I literally did the same
thing.
I made the same mistake in another video today.
Which one's Liam O'Brien?
Vax.
Okay, yeah. So we were good.
Yeah.
So yeah, when Vax in the very first episode throws his dagger and it reappears in his hand, I was like, oh, that's cool. That must be like a rogue thing I'm not familiar with. And I loved in your Easter egg video how you mentioned that it was related to, I guess, when they were first playing before they started as a stream. Yeah. I guess they were playing Pathfinder or Pathfinder variant or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you also mentioned the belt too, which is a nice little detail.
The belt that does the dagger or the snake belt?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, the belt that does the dagger.
Yeah, I think it's called like a blink back belt from Pathfinder that lets you get the dagger back.
Yeah, which is pretty cool because I would have been totally oblivious, and so I was like, oh, it's an item he got.
It's all coming together.
Yeah, I love when a plan comes together. Something else. But yeah, I mean, I like the episodes too. It's I don't know how. Part of me wonders what it would be like watching it, knowing everything that you know, like from your perspective, because I'm watching it as a pretty naive person, having not watched this arc before, having not seen more than a couple dozen episodes from CR1. The one thing that I did wonder, I was like, was I there for that? Was when the scene where, and we'll get into like specifics here in a minute, but one question I had for you was when they're talking about the weirdest kill they ever had.
Yeah.
And Marisha's character talks about the character that she like gusts wind to and they fall into wasn't that lava, with like Clarota and them like going down into the Illithid lair or
it was. So that was like an actual moment that they're calling back to.
Okay.
And
which I was like, oh my gosh, I remember listening because I was listening to it on like my podcast or whatever.
Yeah.
And that was like one of the first moments where I was like, dude, this show is funny. Like, this is good. I really like this. But so when that happened on screen, I was like, oh my gosh, I know that part. So I
Yeah.
imagine that's a little taste of what you're experiencing.
Yeah, basically. And that's funny. So I haven't done this one yet, but when I do the Easter egg video for that, I'm gonna like splice in that clip with that. And actually, the Vax moment really happened, and the Grog moment really happened as well. When they're around the campfire, I mean, I was trying to think if that Scanlan thing happened, but I don't think it did. So if anyone's watching this and you recall that Scanlan flashback, let me know in the comments.
It's funny you mentioned that because actually, since I knew the Keyleth one had happened, I was wondering, well, did the other ones happen?
Yeah.
And the Scanlan one particularly, I was like, oh man, like I wonder what scene that was. So
yeah. So I mean, with as much content as there is, like literal, probably in the thousands of hours, like it's totally possible that I just completely forgot it. So, but I don't think that one happened.
Yeah. Well, let's start general and then we'll work our way down to like specifics from certain episodes. And again, you guys who are watching this video, you're welcome to comment below. Let us know some of your favorite parts that you really liked, questions maybe you had, and we'd love to engage with you. But you said as a whole, really enjoyed it. Are you enjoying them more the farther we're getting into the season? Would you rank them higher than the first 3 episodes? Does it feel like it's finding a rhythm and a momentum? I mean, what's your take on the show now that we're 6 episodes in? Really halfway through the season.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that. I would say that I probably enjoyed this second 3 more than the first 3, but not to take anything away from the first 3. Like I enjoyed the first 3 a lot. But I'm excited to see this Briarwood arc. I love the first 2 episodes, but that was something that was new to me, which in a way that might make it more exciting for a lot of people. But I've been anticipating seeing campaign 1 adapted, so I've like been wanting to see the stuff I'm familiar with, like these moments that I've imagined and like have one day hoped to see animated, and now it's here. So I think for those reasons I've liked the deeper we've gotten into it, because we're like getting into the meat of the story that I've been wanting to see. But it's still kind of a segue here. It still has a lot of fresh stuff even for me. Like they're changing enough stuff to make it true to the spirit still, but fresh even for somebody that saw campaign 1. Like just a quick example, the episode 4 where those wraiths or ghosts or whatever you want to call them are coming brutally attacking, which that was just like way more brutal than I anticipated. But that didn't happen in the campaign. It was similar, but it was a different twist. And we don't have to dive down into the deep of the details unless you want to.
I'm curious, like, because as I was watching that scene, it was like visceral, and I was like, oh dang, like this is getting nuts. And I thought to myself, man, I need to go back and like watch this episode from Critical Role is what I was thinking.
Well, you still should, but it is slightly different. So I'll try to give a quick nutshell. So in the show, it's because they have the book and the Briarwoods are, trying to get the book back. So they send those wraiths to go fetch it. In the campaign, Desmond, the carriage driver of the Briarwoods, Vox Machina like captured him and took him prisoner. There is no book in the campaign. So instead they have Desmond in their keep, and they're like questioning him, trying to get information out of him. So the Briarwoods send these invisible like assassins to come kill him. And so the whole wraith energy life drain, like completely butchering everyone, was totally new to me.
Were they under house arrest? Were they?
So it's been so long, not in the same way, at least. They might have been like, in trouble while the investigation is happening for whatever was going on with the Briarwoods, but they weren't like strictly under house arrest, because Jarrett, the guard that is like the leader in the campaign, he is that's not his role. He's just he's a guard that Vox Machina hired to be a guard of their keep. So like he was always on their team. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, that's cool. Okay.
But yeah, so there's lots of like slight pivots kind of to like make more sense narratively, or maybe just to spice things up, that has kept it fresh and exciting for me as well.
Yeah, that whole scene was nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, the way, and it actually has like, someone who DMs myself, I thought, man, I am so unimaginative with what Matt Mercer comes up with,
Right?
because I mean, it was crazy. It was really good. Did it have a similar moment in the CR, in the live stream with Keyleth, like, channeling the big, I guess, solar flare? Or
I don't think so, but again,
okay,
it's totally possible that there was like a similar moment, but I don't remember that.
yeah, okay,
Because again, it wasn't that same enemy, so I don't think there was like a we need its weakness type of moment like that.
yeah. I can't. I'm trying to like stop myself from being like, what about this? Like, so were they separated? Like, like stuff like that. So
Yeah, I feel you.
anyway, yeah, that's interesting. Oh, cool.
But so, oh, I mean, I guess not that we need to do this, but to give a super, super, super quick recap of what happened in the 3 episodes,
Oh
basically,
yeah, sure.
they get put under house arrest. These wraiths attack, like we've just been talking about, to try to get this book back. That fails, but Jarrett's like, okay, you guys can go, like, go get revenge for my guards. So the party hits the road, is going to Whitestone. They get, some stuff happens on the way there, but they eventually arrive and they, find a resistance of people in Whitestone and basically infiltrate to try to free a prisoner, and that's basically the whole 3 episodes, and it ends with Percy, going no mercy Percy on Stonefell.
Yeah, he was dope. I really liked him as a villain. Like, they had the perfect like voice for that guy.
Yeah.
And what race was he though? That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, so in the campaign, he's just a human. So I think it's just like a artistic flair, or maybe just kind of spicing it up for the animated show. Since they didn't ever like call attention to the fact that he was like specifically something else, I assume he still was human, but maybe we'll find out. Like maybe there's some experimentation going on in Whitestone.
I got some Negan vibes from him when he brought the hammer down on that.
Oh
one
yeah,
rebel.
dude, me too. That was brutal.
Yeah. Which, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I didn't see that coming.
Well, and I was thinking about the scene where he brought in the Duke, who ripped off the rebel's ear, which the Duke seems awesome. But I was wondering, like, some of these scenes. So here's what we do know is in Exandria Unlimited, Abria would do like these stingers that would happen apart from the party.
Right.
I don't think Matt ever did this, and so like I'm assuming a lot of these scenes are just came from the storyboard team, from the creative team. Like they added some extra context, like the Duke showing up, having his discussion with Captain Stonefell. Captain Stonefell, is that right?
Yeah, I think.
And
it's
then,
definitely Stonefell. I don't remember the first.
The
part.
Briarwoods going to the graveyard and like summoning. I mean, I'm assuming none of this was in the live stream.
Correct. So yeah. So in the live stream, the only perspective we see is that of Vox Machina's. So that's been another way it's been like fresh and new, even for someone who's seen the campaign, because we're getting all these like enemy perspectives and just even NPC perspectives that we maybe weren't aware of, which, Matt and mainly Matt, as far as NPCs and enemies are concerned, but the whole cast and everything was definitely in the writer's room. Like they were, everything kind of went through them. So, this isn't just something the writers came up with. I'm sure they had Matt's blessing or even his guidance for those scenes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, and it was even the scene where the Briarwoods bring in the family or the civilians.
Yeah.
The girl's like, "Did we win something?" It's like, "Oh, you sweet summer child."
Bro. Sorry. Okay, well, so yeah, let me get your perspective on that and what that led to, the end of episode 2. What were your thoughts on that?
It had already been spoiled for me.
Oh, it had?
A long time ago, unfortunately.
Did I spoil it for you?
No. I had, whenever we were doing one of our Critical Role campaign 3 episodes, and Laudna was talking about her backstory in Whitestone. Someone in the Twitch, like as I was watching the stream, said, "I wonder if she's one of the people that the Briarwoods hung from the tree when Vox Machina entered the city to like as a warning or whatever." I mean, they said like everything in detail, and I was like, I'm just enjoying some Critical Role, and I'm like, what? I didn't read any more from it, but the person like articulated it so plainly that it was like, well, shoot.
You just kind of
So I already knew what was happening. If that hadn't been spoiled for me, I think that would have been a really just insane scene. I imagine for the live stream, it was just nuts. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't even, I'm almost mad that I wasn't watching back then to experience it.
So yeah, that's one of the moments that like I can vividly remember is that moment happening on stream. And it's funny that you say that whole theory thing because I don't know if I'm like full steam ahead on that theory train, but I'm kind of liking how that's looking. I'm going to talk about it in the Easter egg video when I do that episode.
Yeah,
But
and we won't. I guess we won't say anything more here in case you guys are watching this. Maybe you haven't watched campaign 3, or referring to a character who's from Whitestone in there. But if you are watching it, anyway. But and I would even say you guys are watching maybe now. If you want to rip that clip from the live stream when that happens, I know I would love to see it. Maybe we can reference it in the comments below for people who want to see that too.
the sun tree scene.
The sun tree scene,
Yeah,
yeah. That'd be
I've
great
already
to check
got
out.
it ripped. I'm gonna put it in the Easter egg video. So I
We're
mean,
way
still
ahead of
somebody
you.
throw it in the comments because that'll be
Oh,
more
yeah.
accessible. But I will have
I
it.
mean, yeah,
in,
but
in
I
this
think I
video.
cut you off though. I mean, yeah, you mentioned it was like a vivid memory. I mean, I still haven't had one of those moments yet where you're just like, oh, actually, I'll take it back. I did have it in Exandria Unlimited when they were talking about the crown and Dorian tried to take the crown.
Oh
And Gordon
yeah,
was like,
he's like, give it back. We're
yeah,
gonna
we're
have a
gonna have a
problem.
problem. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that was like what's happening here? But nothing to that level though.
Yeah,
So I bet that was cool to see that reimagined, I guess.
it was, and kind of like we were just talking about how the only perspective on the campaign was that of Vox Machinas. That scene with the Briarwoods and like, oh, you've won. That was brand new. So it didn't click for me, and I'm sure some people probably saw what was coming, but until Delilah put the Everlight pendant on that young girl, then I was like, oh, holy crap, these are the people they're gonna kill. And so that was like, whoa, like even though I knew that moment was coming at some point,
Yeah.
that was still a way to kind of like have it be a shock as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, just so brutal. I mean, the show's been pretty dark in a lot of ways. But that's true to the content of the original campaign. So it's just nice to see them not shy away from that.
But one thing you've mentioned to me, because I've asked you before, like, hey, talk to me about like the vibe of campaign 1 versus campaign 2. And something you've said a couple of times is that campaign 1 is very much high fantasy.
Mhm.
And I've gleaned that just from excuse me, watching the show. And in some ways I kind of miss that element a little bit, even from campaign 3. Which I wouldn't necessarily say campaign 3 isn't high fantasy, but actually I would say it's not yet. I wouldn't say since we haven't seen it hasn't come out yet, obviously, but basically they're not like dungeon diving for goblins or giants or what
Right.
have you. But all that to say, point that I was trying to make was I can see some elements, some notes of that even in the animated series, and it's cool. It's fun to watch. It's fun to see high fantasy stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of that's kind of attributed to the fact that this was the first one, and a lot of them had never played D&D before. So when you make a character, you're probably going to kind of slot into one of those, archetypal. Is that a word? Archetypal? Like
Archetype. Yeah,
one of those archetypes of like, like the Legolas, like basically Lord of the Rings classes in a way,
Yeah,
So
sure.
I think that kind of helped like basically carve the whole vibe of the campaign since Vox Machina themselves kind of fit into those fantasy tropes really well. But yeah, so yeah, it's funny you say that because I totally agree. And I think, I mean, not that this is the time or place for this discussion, but I think probably campaign 1 is my favorite. Obviously, campaign 3 is not even in that competition at this point, but just between 1 and 2, I think I liked 1 more for those reasons, that it was more of a typical high fantasy story. But I loved campaign 2. Nobody start fighting me in the comments. They're both great.
Yeah.
No,
go
go
ahead. I don't say anything.
One thing I did want to ask you about, because we try not to talk too much about our thoughts because we want to save it for when we're doing this. But I just asked you, like, what'd you think after you saw it? And you said it was good, but you thought it was moving pretty fast. So I was just going to ask you to like kind of
sure,
like talk more about that, what you thought there.
Yeah, I mean, man, it's so hard to be unbiased for this show. I want to say I feel like I want to say I feel like we're saying we like the show because it's really a good show, and that we're not just fanboys. I'm sure there's a little bit of distruth to that or something, but I genuinely feel like it's a really great show. I really have enjoyed it so far. The music, by the way, also is really good.
Oh yeah.
But like my one tiny criticism is it does feel like it's moving very fast in the sense of it's hard to describe it. It just kind of feels like the conversation at the table was, hey, we need to really fit this all in this season, presuming that the Briarwood arc is season 1.
Hmm.
Um, so let's just make stuff happen. Now, the benefit of this is there hasn't been any filler. Like one thing I noticed from the very first episode, or maybe it was the second episode, is the episodes aren't very long. I mean, they're 18, 22 minutes long.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a great sign in any show, but especially in an animated show, where the problem can be established in the first few minutes, and by the next 20 minutes, they are resolving it.
Yeah.
Like that's a really nice rhythm and a pacing, as opposed to like, the classic anime, in 1 minute, I will blow up Namek, and then like, it's been like 60 episodes, still a minute, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's probably an unfair criticism because I do like that there's not a lot of filler, but it just almost feels like I can't get my feet set in the setting and kind of take it in before moving on to the next thing.
Mhm.
Here's a great example is, the guard Jarrett and Iman. Like, I have so many questions and thoughts about like Lady Allura. Like, what's her relationship to the Sovereign? Like,
Yeah.
is that his wife, or is she like the number one advisor? What's Jarrett's whole story in this whole thing? I just have all these thoughts and questions, but it's like going on to the next plot point that it just feels like I have these unanswered questions that it's kind of like, well, you kind of have to watch the live stream to get that context, which is fine. But it is a criticism from me where it's like, and it's weird to even articulate it because like I'm not saying like, okay, I want to hit the pause button, I want us to slow it down. I guess it's almost like kind of like I'm remiss that I'm not getting to really soak it in as much as I want to before we're moving on to the next thing. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and that's interesting. That's a good perspective that I don't have because those questions you have, I know the answers to because of campaign 1. Now, at this stage of campaign 1, I didn't have those answers, just like you don't at this stage of the show. So I mean, it'll be interesting to see what moments they give time to breathe versus get cut in service of condensing 3 hours down into 20 minutes in a lot of cases, but I think those questions you have will get answered. It might just be later, And so it's easy for me to say this as the one who has the knowledge to say it. Like, it's probably not fair for me to say this, but I would say that if I'm losing my own train of thought here, hold on.
Well,
that like those okay, go ahead. I'm gonna see if I can figure out how to phrase this better.
I feel like I should have like thought this through a little bit better, even on the front end, for like some more examples. But like,
no, I know what you're saying.
It almost feels like to keep the plot moving, there's like these moments of convenience also that happen. Like, for example, when Percy returns to Whitestone, and they come across Lady, what's her name? The woman who is the town square creature.
Crap. I know who you're talking about. I can't remember the name though.
Well, so when he approaches her, she's like going home for the night. She says, "Oh, Percy, is that really you?"
Mm-hmm.
He didn't announce himself as Percy. He has, white gray hair, so it's clearly been quite a while since. And so, like, it almost felt like a moment of convenience. Like, hey, you're Percy, and now let's move to the next thing of like, what do we do together? Rather than, well, who are you? What, you're Percy? No, Percy died. Like these are just. It almost feels like these are minutes of screen time we don't really have time to really dedicate to because there's more important stuff we need to do, and I don't fault them for that. It's just for me as someone who is so in love with Critical Role and regrets that I haven't watched through season 1 or campaign 1. that I'm like, oh, if we could get just a little bit more right there,
Yeah.
that would be really fulfilling.
No, I mean, I think that's fair. I agree too. But I mean, I think you already said it, so I don't need to re-say it. But I think that's just one of the issues you run into when you got to cut it down to,
Sure.
10 episodes, since the first two were kind of unrelated, to fit this whole story in. But I agree. Like, I mean, if we could make this each episode an hour long and have 24 episodes this season, like, I'd be about it still. But yeah, I mean, you lose some of the magic when you have to cut out the
Sure.
moments, and that's part of what makes Critical Role so great. And I kind of remembered what I was failing to say earlier, is that, so those comments, like those questions you have about these characters and wanting to feel like more immersed in the world, like what's their place here, yada yada yada. Obviously, those answers do exist, and they may be coming, but kind of like, and again, this may be just me having the benefit of the doubt that I can say this, but it's kind of like the real world, in a way. Like, just because you meet a character doesn't mean it's like Chekhov's gun and they're going to have like, this integral part to play in the episode. Like,
Sure.
they're living their life and they're going on. Maybe we'll interact with them and find out more about them later, maybe not. So I don't
That's
know if
fair.
I'm saying this at all right, but that being said, like, what you're feeling is 100% valid and 100% like accurate even.
Well,
I just,
and I shouldn't imply that these moments aren't happening. I mean, the writing I feel like has been pretty good in terms of creating those moments and it not feeling weird or awkward.
yeah,
Because sometimes, exposition or writing to advance a character's story can be so forced and awkward.
right.
My wife and I were watching like the first few minutes of a show the other day, and a woman was talking to her therapist, and the therapist was like, well, since the accident where your daughter died that day, that you're afraid
Yeah.
of the rain or something. I was like, this is like so like overtly, it's just silly.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that I think in the moments they're creating, they're doing it really well. Perfect example, Keyleth and Percy, they're locked away in a room together. I loved, by the way, the detail of Percy. Because from what I remember, he would in their short rests or whatever would kind of tinker and mess with his guns.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a really cool, just flavor detail.
Agreed. I love that scene.
Sure, it's going to show up in your Easter egg video. But Keyleth just mentioning like, yeah, I can't go home. Like, here's what's going on with me.
Mhm.
That was a really great scene, and it's
Yeah.
only 45 seconds of screen time, 2 minutes of screen time, and yet it tells us something really interesting about our character that also is consistent with her character from what we've seen in the first 3 episodes. Unsure of
Right.
herself, seemingly wants something to prove, but not in an arrogant way. It's almost like it's been cast on her.
Yeah.
And it also set up the end of that episode really well. And again, that's only a minute
Right.
of that happening. So yeah, I mean, I think they are doing a good job with it. I don't want to make it sound like they're just going so fast there's no development happening at all.
Right. Yeah.
But naturally, I just want more. So.
Yeah. No, I think that's a fair criticism. I think that just at some point a little bit has to give somewhere, and I think it's
Sure.
those types of moments at times. But yeah, everyone, if you feel the same way, check out the campaigns proper. Start with campaign 3. We talk about that every week. Join us.
Yeah. And I think maybe that's the bias too, is we watch a 5-hour Critical Role episode where they have 3 hours of just development and dialogue. I mean, like lore dropped.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Exactly.
Right. But what do we want to talk about, like other specific moments that happened in the show?
I mean,
that popped up, or
I'm down to go any direction. If you had anything in particular you wanted to talk about, or any moment.
I do have a question. So, like the Briarwoods, do they just have giants walking around the city? Like, what's going on with that? What's up with that?
Yeah. So, yeah.
That's Allison Jaffe game.
That was a great game. That's from campaign 3. Another reason to watch. But yeah, so I mean, without diving into any spoilers, just based on what we already know, clearly the Briarwoods came into Whitestone, are evil, have taken over. Most of the city is just living in terror and kind of doing what they can. They pretty much, I don't know if it's that they can't leave, but it might be. And I'm not like trying to hide spoilers here. I actually just don't remember that exact detail, but it's basically like a prison, Whitestone, and those giants are the guards in a way to think about it. They're making sure that everyone stays in line, you know, especially since we have this rebellion going on. It's just another uh, safekeeping's not the right word, but it's just a way to keep things in line. To put it not simply, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Okay. But yeah. What did you? Okay. Okay, I don't know if I'm going to say that yet, so I'm gonna wait and shift to something else for now. But one moment that, you know, I don't know if I wish I could erase from my mind or not was when Scanlan is getting like the tentacle monster down his throat. That never happened in the campaign, but you know, they're taking their chances, and that was one of them.
Yeah, I was like, the show is definitely not something my wife would appreciate.
But yeah, that's definitely like a Scanlan thing though, because I mean, it seems like he kind of enjoys it for a second.
Yeah, right. Which I liked. The illustration of those monsters is really cool though too. I mean, it gave a great insight of, you know, the Briarwoods as not just evil, but you know, kind of mad scientist-esque as well.
Yeah. So. Yeah, which that could be what was going on with Stonefell, you know, like maybe he is a human, but there's some mad scientist stuff going on that he was all about or something.
He's been messing with it too long.
Yeah. So. Yeah, for sure. Oh, and I meant to say this earlier, but oh gosh, I am being terrible for not remembering names, but the big gold arm guy.
The Duke,
yeah. He is voiced by the Hound from Game of Thrones, so I thought that was a cool little.
Oh, that's cool.
It feels like he fits pretty well.
Is the Duke in the live stream?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm pretty certain. I think so. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he is, or at least. So I guess this is a good time to talk about it. We've already talked about how there's been some changes. Another pretty big change, but I understand like the narrative reason for it is Archie, you know, the guy in prison they went to save. In the campaign, he wasn't like this dwarf leader of the rebellion. He was like an old man that was like one of the DeRollo's like advisors back when they ruled Whitestone. So the reason I'm like so iffy on that Duke question is I can't remember if maybe he was a character that they have like shifted slightly. So I don't remember if like the Duke, literally that character, was in the campaign or not. But I think he was.
Yeah, and one thing I do like also, I don't know how to describe this, but going back to like exposition and how they like write scenes, when the woman mentions that Archie is the one leading the rebellion, and Percy's like, "Oh, Archie, really? We go way back." And instead of just us listening to him do like this really, you know, long explanation, first of all, he kind of jokes at it. Like he says some things, then he kind of looks around and he's like, "Oh, this isn't really important." It's kind of what he does. But also, I like how they have his dialogue keep going in the background while Keyleth goes over to the sun tree's roots and like tries to talk to it and can you hear me? I mean, that was I don't know. I don't know how to describe that or what concept that is and like in storyboarding or writing or whatever. But that I also really liked too.
Yeah, and speaking of the sun tree, I hope that we get to see more of it because, you know, well, okay, I won't say anything else, but I hope there's more sun tree in our future. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
But so, okay, I want to, you know, not to put you on the spot or anything, but I'm curious what you think maybe we're in store for. And since I can't really, you know, speak on that, I'm just,
sure.
You know, not to make you guess and then like I'm gonna be like, you were wrong or anything, but just, you know, I'm curious like what you think maybe we're gonna get out of the, like, where do you think some of these things are going? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, just to like kind of word vomit some things. One thing that's interesting is Pike, who I really like. Ashley Johnson, really like Pike, the character as well. That has felt different. It's felt a little off in the sense of I'm kind of wondering like, okay, what's the point of all of this?
Mm-hmm.
Was she on her TV show? Did she have to leave when they did the Briarwood arc?
Okay, so let me word vomit for a second and get this spiel out of the way.
Watching with their Illithid arc, if you can call it that, there was something happening with her where like she just wasn't. She felt like that block there with
Right.
and
Right.
so they changed it. They wrote it in as like she thought it was a curse from, Lady Briarwood. So yeah, go ahead and word vomit context there, I guess.
Okay, I guess I'll have a two-pronged word vomit. First of all, on the crack in the pendant and the strained relationship there. That did happen in the campaign, but it was under completely different circumstances. It was actually because she like kind of ruthlessly murdered a monster. Like I don't remember the exact context, but essentially, they're fighting like goblins or some sort of like non-humanoid like monster character. And in D&D, like you knock things unconscious or you can kill them. So whatever this monster was like unconscious, and Pike just walked up and slit its throat. And which, I mean, in D&D, especially at this point in the campaign, that was very early. They had just started. That was against what her character, like her alignment, if you're familiar with D&D alignment, that was like an action that was against her alignment. She's this holy cleric that's supposed to be, like righteous and honorable. And yet she like ruthlessly murdered a defenseless, even though it was a bad guy. So Matt, as kind of like an alignment penalty for that, said, your pendant has like a crack in it now. And so there was this whole similar storyline of her like trying to go remedy that. So in the show, we're getting like the same bones, but like a different thing, because clearly Pike didn't brutally murder somebody in the show. But there is something going on there because, as we know, the priests were like, oh, you're not cursed. Like there's something else. Like the relationship is strained for some reason, but we don't know yet. So I'm interested to find out why and where that leads. Okay, so that was the first part. The second part is that, yes, Ashley was gone a lot during campaign 1 and campaign 2, actually, because she was on a TV show, Blind Spot. That was like the main thing, but there were other reasons at times too that she wasn't there. So she was kind of like and she wasn't a guest star. She's been a main cast member the whole time, but like she was effectively a guest for a lot of campaign 1 and 2 because she would frequently be gone. So Matt has to kind of write that into the story in ways when, a main character ups and disappears for stretches at a time. So this story where, she leaves to go get that fixed, even though it's for different reasons, did happen in the campaign, and that because Ashley, the real human, was gone. So anyway, all that to say that in the show, I was curious how they would handle this, if they would just retcon it and Pike would be with them the whole time, all the time, or if they would still kind of write in her having absences. And clearly they're doing the latter because, Pike left the group at the end of episode 4. And I forgot what your original question was, but hopefully maybe that, gave you some insight. Say,
I'm assuming we're going to get more of that. The one thing I really don't like in shows is when someone has to, someone like they dedicate like an episode of travel and someone else is going like a completely different direction. And they're like on like the path of enlightenment or like figuring something out or getting healed or what have you. And then at like the most dire moment, that character shows up like restored and ready to help.
Yeah.
It's such a trope that drives me crazy because it's like somehow they traveled there. Like we saw just 8 minutes ago, they were just getting themselves like resolved in whatever conflict they're in. And now they're suddenly here. Right. It drives me crazy. So
like Game of Thrones season 8.
Absolutely. So I genuinely hope that's not going to happen, or that if it does happen, it's done so well that I don't even care. Like, yeah. I mean, so I hope that's not going to happen. I'm assuming, just total shot in the dark here, I'm assuming I noticed how when Percy shot and killed Captain Stonefell, the name, which I need to go back and see like a still of all the names that were on there.
Yeah.
Because that was a really cool detail how it vanished from his gun.
Yeah.
That was cool. So I'm assuming, I mean, there's only 6 episodes left. So I'm assuming he's gonna ace the Duke. He's gonna knock out Rufus, or whatever the advisor was. That was like the family advisor who in the last shot with his sister, big ugly Rufus guy. I think his name's Rufus.
Professor Anders or something like that.
That's right. Yeah, Rufus. I was way off. Samsonite.
Swammy.
Yeah. Professor Anders. Yeah, that's right. I don't know if he's on the gun, but seems like a person that he would put on there. And then I think we're going to see a massive battle with the Briarwoods. And I mean, if they can control giants, I'm a bit concerned about this power level gap, sort of implied power level gap.
Yeah.
They don't have their healer, they don't have their cleric, they have one less person.
Right.
So I don't know. That's kind of what I'm expecting, though.
Yeah. I mean, I won't comment too much on that, but okay. Okay. I am interested to see that, like, since we have 6 episodes left, half the season, in a way, I mean, I shouldn't say this, but in a way, we have more than we've had because the first 2 episodes were an unrelated story. So, like, even though we only have half left, and maybe I'm just, trying to cope here, it feels like we have more than half left of the story to go. I'm wondering, and again, I have not seen campaign 1 in, like, since it came out. I don't 5 years ago, something around there. So while I, like, know generally, like, what happened in campaign 1, I don't remember, like, the explicit details. So I really don't know what to expect. Like I know where we're supposed to end up ultimately, but I have no idea what to expect for the 6 episodes that are leading us there. So, like, not this show hasn't been like a monster of the week show. Like, we got to go stop this guy this week, and we did it. Like a formula TV show. It hasn't been like that. So, not that I would even guess that. Oh, like, this will be the enemy next episode. This will be the enemy next episode. But I really have no idea what to expect.
It does seem like we're going to get more of maybe some romance between the characters.
Oh,
I'm digging Vax and Keyleth. Ship it. I like it. And I like Vex, being kind of the protective sister. She's an idiot. What's going on there?
Yeah.
And I also like the writing of Vex also as, like, sort of like the it's just the 2 of us. Like, that's who's most important. And they reference Singorn and that whole thing. So yeah, it goes back to my previous comment. These little breadcrumbs of, like, story of character development is really interesting. In the live stream, were there overt romances that developed as the campaign went on?
Maybe. So, like, I mean,
Okay.
there might have been, but yeah, I think they've done a great job of having moments that ring true for the spirit of stuff that happened in campaign 1. And I feel like they've done a really good job of that. Like you mentioned, between Vax and Vex, especially, I love that scene. It, like, said so much in just 15 seconds of screen time. But yeah, they have the relationship you described. Like, that's their relationship. They've only had each other their whole lives. And so I kind of like the pull and tug between, like, all right, the 2 of us, we could get out of here. Like, no one's going to catch us. But if we go as the group, like, we're screwed. And so it's like, well, should we do what we've always done and look out for ourselves? Or, should we try this? Should we try to make it work with these people? So I love that. And I mentioned this in the Easter egg video, but we're right here, so I want to say it. A moment I loved in that moment is, they took all their weapons because they're under house arrest. And in that scene, they even took all the knives and the forks and everything out of the kitchen. But in that scene, Vax is twirling a knife. So he had, like, sleight of hand been able to, like, hide one away from the guards. And that's just like a little attention to detail that I love.
Yeah, nice. That's cool. Yeah, I need to go back and watch your latest Easter egg video. And I'm looking forward to the future ones too, because again, it's nice context. So
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, for you guys who are watching, what do you? It's almost dangerous to ask, what do you expect, especially since assuming a lot of you have probably seen campaign 1 or you're in the know about it. Like we said in our last video, and again, we'll do another one for the next 3 that come out next week and the week after. Anytime you write a comment that is spoilery, for my sake and anyone else who's checking out our comments who've only seen Legend of Vox Machina, definitely do a big spoiler, heads up.
Please.
Hey, that's really helpful. But let us know also what you're expecting. What do you think? What's going to happen? Other small details, changes maybe that you really appreciated, or breaks from the live stream. Will, is there anything else you want to talk about from these 3 episodes?
Yeah, well, not from the 3 episodes, but I did have something.
We don't necessarily have to wrap up. It was a good segue to mention since we're talking about what's going to happen.
So. Yeah, for sure. And again, not to wrap us up either, but what I have to say is kind of a aside. This is just an idea in my brain right now. This may not even happen. but we have 6 episodes left, so two releases left of the show. I was thinking it might be fun to like watch some episodes together, like if any of y'all wanted to watch, because Twitch has this functionality called Watch Party, where if you have Amazon Prime, you can watch their shows like with people. So again, don't know if this is actually going to happen, but if anyone would be interested in that, I guess like let us know, because I don't know, I think that'd be fun to kind of set up and at least for maybe some of the episodes, watch them together. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, it'd be really cool.
Me and you, if no one else, but if anyone else wants to as well. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah. Well, and then also we need to do. I feel like we keep talking about this Witcher video. we need to do the Witcher video.
We do.
Someone commented on it too. I don't remember who it was, but we need to do that. And then, did you finish episode 12 for CR3?
No, I plan on finishing it tomorrow. Have you finished it?
No, I've barely watched any of it. So the latest Critical Role episode, those of you guys who follow the campaign and our deep dives, we're recording this right now. It is Saturday night. Episode went live Thursday night. It was another 5-hour episode. No excuses for you guys who maybe you like watching our deep dives immediately after. My wife works Thursdays and Fridays, and so Friday I'm usually being a dad. So whenever Will told me, "Hey, it's another 5-hour episode," I was like, "Oh man, I can't stay up and do that." So I still need to watch it. Will, you said
I need to finish
it up. So hopefully, I would say maybe Monday would be probably a fair expectation for us to sit down and get that video up.
Yeah, let's shoot for that.
Okay, so you guys who maybe you expect that video, check back on Monday, and we'll have the our thoughts on episode 12, the latest episode from the 3rd campaign as well.
Yeah.
So, thumbnail. What are we doing?
Oh yeah. I want to do like a No Mercy. Did we do No Mercy Percy last time?
No.
Okay, maybe like a No Mercy Percy, but I don't know exactly how. But
yeah, I'm like looking around to see.
Maybe I'll like be shooting you and you'll be like terrified or something.
Yeah.
Okay. So you need to face the other way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching our video. Again, we're at the Pixelists on Twitter. Let us know in the comments. Don't be a stranger. We actually comment on pretty much everything that gets commented below. We just love to engage and have a good time with our fellow D&D fans. So let us know what you think. And other than that, we'll see you Monday.
Yeah. See you guys.